So in this section, I want to show you how to perform calculations in Python. So basically in data analysis, you come across very different types of calculation, both from very simple calculations to complex calculation, but they all start from the same basic foundation. So in this particular tutorial, I'm going to show you how to perform all the basic calculations that you can think of using Python. Calculations like addition, multiplication, division, and subtractions, and something called modulus. So we are going to look at how to do that correctly in Python. Okay, so in Python, there are a lot of calculations like I've mentioned. You can perform any kind of arithmetic calculations you can think of. But you're just going to cover the basic one because subsequently, as we go on in this particular tutorial, we are going to cover the complex one. So let's see how to do very complex addition. I mean simple addition. So addition. So let's see how to do that. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this out and create another cell. So in here, I'm going to say addition. So to do addition in Python is as simple as using the addition symbol. So if let's say you can do something like 5 plus 5. So 5 plus 5, and if you run this now, it should give you 10. So by using that addition symbol, you already know that you have the correct calculation. So you can calculate between integers, which is like a single number, or a float, which is the number with a decimal. So even if you do something like 3.2 plus 4. So if you do 3.2 plus 4 now, you should see that you get something like 7.2, right? Now, this kind of number with decimal is sometimes any number that has decimal in Python is either called a float or a double, okay? Because it has a decimal. So we have integer, we have floats, we have double. So we are going to maybe discuss how or where all of these things are useful. But instead of doing our calculation like this, now that we've learned how to do use floats, I mean how to use variables, we can simply just put our numbers into variables so that we can use them repeatedly. So I can say first number now, first number. So I'm going to declare a variable called first number, and I'm going to equate this to be 100, right? And then I'm going to declare another number called first number, I mean second number rather, second number. I'm going to declare this to be 205, 205, and possibly I'm going to have fourth number. So fourth number now, fourth number. So I'm going to call this like let's say 67, right? And finally, I'm going to have the last number now. I'm going to say last or fifth number. I don't know if that is correct, but if it's not, just pardon me. So fifth number is going to be like, let's see, 600 now. Okay, so now we have okay, this should be third, so this should be third and this should be fifth, I think. So I'm going to simply copy this and paste this here, and then I'm going to call this third number. Third number. So now we have four numbers. Okay, so we are going to use these four numbers to perform all of our arithmetic operations. So going back again, let's start with addition. So for addition now, addition. So I'm going to do now. Before I continue, if you see any place where there is this symbol, yeah, so like an hash sign, so everything in that particular line is going to be like a comment. Now a comment in programming is a piece of information that you add to explain a code. Okay, once you add this symbol in Python, it simply indicates that everything on that particular line is a comment. So the system will not run that particular stuff. It will just skip that particular line. So wherever you see me use an hash, then followed by maybe numbers or text or anything, I'm simply telling the system that that is a comment, and it will understand that and skip that particular line. Okay, so if I do not add a comment here and then I just run that particular cell, you see that there is an error. They will tell me that addition is not defined, because the system was now trying to see what addition is. It didn't find it, but because now if I put this hash sign here, the system will now know that that is a comment. So if I run that, you see, completely just skip without an error. Okay, so let's do our first calculation now. So now that we've created all these variables, we can now say first number. Maybe I'll just copy this and paste first number plus second number. So plus second number plus third number plus fourth number now. So fourth number. So no matter the complexity of the numbers, once you correctly call them and you just use this addition symbol, once you run them now, you should have the total sum of that particular number. So you have like 972, right? So even better, you can now equate, you can say total, you can now say total is equals to all of these numbers here. I have all of these numbers here. So if we run this now, we have another variables now called total. So wherever we call total now, we should always have 972, because total as a variable is now pointing to the sum of these particular numbers right here. You understand now? So that's quite kind of interesting. Now we can do the same thing for like division. So now since we have total here, so let's now say let's say division, or let's divide total by 2. So let's say total divide by 2. Let's call a variable, say total by 2, or let's just call that total by 2. Okay, so total by 2. So this is going to be total divide by 2. Now in division using Python, you simply use the division sign that you use in your everyday calculation. Okay, so this is the division sign. So we are going to have this now. So if you call total divide by 2, let's see what we have. So total divide by 2 now, call that variable, we see that when you divide it by 2, you have 486.0. Okay, now one thing you should know is that whenever you divide a number, whenever you divide an integer, the result will often be a float. Okay, what that means is that you always have a decimal place or a decimal number that comes after that. So whenever you divide an integer by a number, you will have a float. That's what you should know as a Python developer. Okay, now we've done addition here by adding these numbers together. We've also done division by dividing total, which is the total of the first four numbers that we have, by 2, and we now have 446. And the next one is the next one is multiplication. So multiplication. Before then, this was addition. What should we call that? So this was division. Yeah. So this was division. So the next one is multiplication now. So multiplication. So in multiplication we use the asterisk. So if you know the asterisk sign, that is what we use in doing multiplication. So for now we can now say, since we have total divided by total by 2 as a variable here, so we can now say total by 2 multiply by 2. So multiply, so use the asterisk sign by 2. So let's call this mod, so representing multiplication. Call this mod representing multiplication. So now we are multiplying the total divided by 2, which was 486 by 2, and let's see what we are going to have. So if I run this right now and then I call mod and I run mod, then I can simply have 972. Okay, so you can see that we've returned back to the initial value right here. Okay, we return back to the initial value right here. But now if you notice something, the number now has a decimal place. That was because when we divided this by 2, it converted it from its initial value, which was a plain integer, to something called a float. Okay, so once this number is now a float, right? So there is no way when we multiply it by 2 it will still be an integer. It will still remain now as a float. I'm going to show you how to check the type of number. in Python. So type of number you're working with in Python. Subsequently, I'm going to show you about that. Okay. Now, the final thing we are going to do is subtraction. So now we have mod, which is 972. Let's check the subtraction. Okay, let's check subtraction. Okay, so we are going to now say um 900, or we can say mod, or let me title this. This is subtraction now. So subtraction. Okay, so I will run this, and then I will now say mod minus. So we use the minus sign for that. Minus let's say 500. Okay. So what we are simply doing here is that we are subtracting 500 from this value of multiplication that we did here. So again, we are going to call this sub, representing subtraction, and the variable will be used to store that particular arithmetic. So if we click this now, we have an error. So the error is simply because you can see right here that this mod is not defined. Now this brings us to a very important part of Python. Python as a programming language is case sensitive. So Python is case sensitive. Let me keep that. Python case sensitive. So, so what this means is that something that starts with a capital letter is not the same thing as something that starts with a small letter. So if you can look at this our calculation here, sub is actually equating to mod, which starts with a capital letter. But Python is telling us that we've not defined anything like that. So this is very, very important. This is very, very important because you come across it every day. So whenever you are defining a variable and it starts with a capital letter, know that that variable will not be the same even if it's the same spelling. It will not be the same with the one that starts with small letter. So the mistake we did here was starting mod with a capital letter, while what we have in store was in small letter, right? So Python is case sensitive, unlike some programming language where capital letter is the same thing as small letter. They look at it as the same thing. Python is exclusively very, very case sensitive. So you must be very careful of that. So let's just change it to small letter. And now if we run this, you will see that the problem or our error has disappeared. Such that if we come down here, now and we call mod and then we run this, you can now see that we have our solution. No, we should run sub rather. So we should run sub here. So sub, and then we run this. You can see that we've subtracted 500 from this, and we are left with 472. Okay, so that is an interesting part of Python. That is like everything that has to do with um, you know arithmetic, basic arithmetic in Python. And there's one last one I want to introduce to you, and that is something called modulus. Modulus. You might not come across this often, but it's something that is very good to know. Okay, so I'm going to say um 25, and I'm going to use the 2 equals 2 division sign by 3. So let's see if this will give us something. So you can see this gives us 8. Okay, this gives us 8. Now what this does right now is that it gives us the nearest whole number. Okay, it gives us the nearest whole number instead of just giving us a percentage. Now let me show you the difference. If we copy this right here and come to this place and paste this now, and then we'll remove one of this. Okay, so I will run this, you'll see that we have 8.33. Okay, so what is happening now is that this 2 equals 2 division sign rather allows us to get an absolute whole number, and we discard the remaining or the decimal place. But what if we want to get that decimal place? What if we want to get the remainder when we divide a particular number by maybe a divisor? So instead of, what if we want to get 0.3, that is what is left out of this? That is what we call a modulus. Okay, so in Python the way you use a modulus is to use the percentage sign. So we can now do something like 25 percentage sign by 3. So if we run this right now, so you can see that we have 1. Okay, so what it's saying is that when you divide this by 3, this is what you're going to get. All right. So you don't really need to care so much about that because it's not really widely used. But should in case you come across something like that, that is how to like get that. So again, we have addition. We have the addition, which you get by adding using the plus symbol and adding all the numbers together. We also have the division, which is used by using the division sign, which is this sign here. And then we have the multiplication, which we get by using asterisk. And then we have the subtraction, which we get by using this particular sign, which is my subtraction sign. And then we also have this, which allows us to get a whole number and discard the decimal places. And then we also have this, the modulus, which allows us to like get a reminder of a calculation. So what you need to do right now is to play around all of this and see if you can work with complex numbers, okay, and see if you can perform calculation with different complex numbers and stuff like that, and see if you can make mistakes or not. All right, so in our next tutorial we are going to cover other types of data types and see how you can find a type of the type of variables you are working with and how you can implement that in other complex data. Okay, so see you in the next tutorial.